Hi, hello, and namaskar. Today, in my series Talking with Experts, I have a topic which is highly important to talk on, not only as parents, educators, but also with our children. And more so, when suddenly our children have been given any age for that matter, have been exposed to technology, social media, way beyond our expectations. And I'm super excited to have an equally special subject matter expert with me today, Miss Anju Kish, who is a certified sexuality educator, founder and CEO of Untaboo, a multiple times TEDx speaker, and author of award-winning book on sex ed for children titled How I Got My Belly Button, a stand-up comic who is changing mindsets about sex ed through comedy. Anju is double graduate in law and mass communication and a former journalist. Wow, that's something that I really look forward to. And so here I welcome her to the talk and ask her how, when, and why she decided to be in this field. Welcome, Anju. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kavita, for having me in your expert series. A pleasure to be here and talking to you and all your, followers and members. Well, how I got into it is my son started asking me questions when he was young. The typical questions about how I was born, how a baby is made, and his questions started getting more and more, frequent and more detailed. And I couldn't find any books or anything on the internet that much at that point of time when he's growing up. He's 23 now, and I'm talking when he was about 6 or 7 years old. So I said, okay, let me write a book because I was a professional writer. I was already writing some books. So I started researching and writing a book on sex ed from the child's point of view,
Mhm.
explaining it in a language that they understand.
Mhm.
And to cut a long story short, yes, that's how I got into it. Was completely hooked to the subject. Researched for years, took my certification as a sexuality educator, spent another couple of years trying to create content which is suitable for children.
Right.
And yes, 2011 is when I launched my company. And yeah, here am I now.
Wow. Wow. That's so interesting and good to know. And I know, Anju, you are a mother of two sons, if I'm not wrong in saying that.
That's right.
So one is
Yes.
23 years, you shared with us. How old is the younger one, I
The
suppose?
other one is the other one is 19.
Oh, okay. So, Anju, my first question to you is that there's a lot that has changed around sex education in last few years, right?
Right.
However, there's a lot that needs to change, especially when it comes to educating our children around it. As you were also mentioning that because your son started asking those questions to you, is when you decided to write a book and dig deep into this. So my question
Right.
to you is that what all comes under sex education for children and what is the right age to start talking with children about the same?
Right. I think to understand what comes under sex education, the first thing we parents need to do is remove this mind block that we have against this word sex.
Mhm.
Because if we do not remove this mind block, we will always end up believing that sex education is talking to children about sex and teaching them about sex, which is so, so far away from the truth. Sex education is actually, if I may say, it's like an umbrella term. And under this umbrella, there are like hundreds of topics. So, if you are talking to your child about the good touch, bad touch, unsafe touch, that is sex education. If you're talking to them about puberty, about periods, about crushes, that is sex education. Of course, if you're talking to them about reproduction and the sexual act, that is sex education too. And there are tons of topic, whether it's about dating, it's about relationships, not just romantic relationships, but even a parent-child relationship, a peer-to-peer relationship, peer pressure, all that is sex education. Today, with the children constantly living online, their online behavior is also comes under the purview of sex education. How are they behaving online, the appropriate behavior there, sexting, pornography, masturbation, consent, boundaries, all of this is sex education. And I can go on rattling more and more topics. all of them come under sex education. So actually, if you see the word, the sexual act is such a tiny part of sex education. And in fact, sometimes we say that, oh, we don't need to talk to our teenagers, they know it all. So what do we mean when we say they know it all, right?
Right.
Are we just saying that they know about the sexual act? That is a tiny part of sex education. There are lots more conversations you need to have with your teens. And coming back to your second part of the question as to what is the right age to start, as early as possible. The moment you start teaching your kids the names of their body parts when they're very young, usually at 1.5, 2 years, you're teaching them that this is your nose, these are your eyes. That's the time to start, because that's the time you also teach them the right terms for their genitals.
Right.
Please do not give the genitals pet names like nunnus and biwis and sonus and those kind. Teach them the right terms, because positivity starts from there.
Right. Thank you so much, Anju, for sharing that with us. And when we were growing up, there were like this question has specifically come to my mind because my younger one, who is soon going to be 13, right, asked me this question. So it is from her, and then I got thinking that when we were growing up, there were not many products available as compared to today, right, to support us during those menstrual cycles. Today, the market is flooded with tampons, cups, period panties, other than those old-time favorite sanitary pads, which we got. And even if all these products did exist, I was not aware of it, and no one guided and talked about it. But because of this change into technology and children being on this media and phone every time, they're aware and they're more open and curious to discuss about them. So my younger one too asked me about these products, and she asked me, Ma, like, which one is better? What would you advise? Because recently she has started on her menstrual cycles and their usage. And Anju, I was short of words. I had no idea because I never used them honestly. So that is when I said, let me invite an expert and talk to her about all this. So if you can throw some light on these products, their usage, right time to start with all this. So it would be a great help to me and to our users as well.
So Kavita, of course, pads are something which we've all been using since years, but there's a major difference today in the pads which are available. There is so much of variety available, right? There are different sizes available. There are, with wings, without wings. There are also pads which come for heavier flow, for lighter flow. So there are all these different kinds of pads available which were not possibly there, during our time. So yes, that option is there for the children today. But other than that, there are, of course, like you said, there are tampons, there are menstrual cups, there are something known as period panties, there's something known as sponges, sea sponges. There are cloth pads available now. So today's generation is in fact very, very aware and evolved. They in fact want to use eco-friendly products. And that is amazing. So if you want me to give a little detail about each of these products, pads we all know, but like I said, they're available now for light flow to heavier flow. The tampons are cylindrical shaped, about this long things which are inserted into the vagina, and it soaks up the blood over there. Menstrual cups are like silicone based cups which are again inserted into the vagina. Sea sponges are also this kind of a little sponge which is inserted inside the vagina like a tampon. Period panties are panties with very, very absorbent material, and they can hold the blood of what about one or about two pads, what your two pads or two tampons can hold, that much blood it can hold. So they're very simple. You just wear the panty and that's it. You need not do anything about it. So, but with all the products, there are advantages. There could be some disadvantages. So I guess what as a parent you need to do is take your child through, okay, these are the products available. These are some advantages. These are some disadvantages. Let's sit and decide which one to start using. And it's not to say that if you start using one, you cannot shift to another.
Right.
So it's a trial and error thing.
So
start with
Anju,
something as basic, maybe, yeah.
So yes. My sorry to interrupt, but this was coming to my mind that there's this taboo around it that unmarried girls should not start with tampons. I mean, so as a parent, I would like to understand that what is the right age for girls to start using, and is this is going to be disadvantageous for them? I mean, so if you can just help us understand a little better on this.
So it's interesting you asked this question, Kavita, because a lot of mothers ask me this question. And I would just like to actually ask you a question back in return. That when we think of the fact that when we ask the question, is it okay for young girls to use a tampon? What is our fear? Is the fear that it's going to be painful? Is the fear that, oh my God, we're inserting something inside the vagina? Or is the fear that it's going to take away her virginity?
Right.
Or is it that it's a combination of all three? So I think the first thing is to question that why am I even thinking, why am I resisting, say, a tampon or a menstrual cup? Because a lot of time the fear is that anything inserted into the vagina means it's like taking the virginity away. The hymen might break. Now we need to understand that the hymen is just a tissue which is covering a portion of the vagina, and hymen has no use in a woman's body other than it's just probably just a remnant of the time when the vagina was being developed in the embryo stage. There is no use for it. There are perforations and holes in there from which the menstrual blood can flow out. Now this hymen can break due to cycling, due to some other vigorous exercising, sometimes during the use of tampons or menstrual cups, sometimes even gynec examinations. It can just break, and even if it breaks, there's nothing wrong with it. It is definitely not an indication of whether somebody is a virgin or not.
Absolutely.
Virginity is actually not even a medical word. It's actually just a social construct. It's a cultural thing that we've kind of put that word out for ourselves.
Right.
Because
Right.
virginity can only be if there is something known as virginity. It's probably when there is the first sexual act. But then what is a sexual act is another kind of thing.
Right.
Is it penetration? Is it oral sex? So that's a different conversation to have. But do not fear the fact that if a young girl uses a tampon or a menstrual cup, her hymen will break and it will take away her virginity. I think let's keep that completely aside. That's not true. It's a myth. As far as whether it will hurt her, or whether it will be comfortable for her, there are lots of different sizes available as per the age of the child, as per the height of the child. So
Okay.
choose a size which is the basic beginning size and use that. But again,
Right.
first you need to sit and decide what product will be most comfortable for her. People who use menstrual cups and tampons swear by it. They say that there's nothing more comfortable than that because you wear it and you forget about it.
Right. I've heard a lot
Menstrual
about
cup,
that. I've heard a lot about that.
yes, menstrual cup in fact can be used for almost 8 to 12 hours at a stretch without worrying about it.
Okay. Okay. So as I
So
said,
tampons,
because
yes,
I've never used
tampons you
it.
need to change 4 to 5 hours, but menstrual cup you can wear for a really long time. Of course, if you have a heavy flow, then you might need to remove, rinse it, and put it back again.
Huh.
But other than that, you can just wear and forget, kind of.
Right. That's such an information, Anju, and an eye opener for me, because as I told, I never used these products, so I was not able to answer my daughter about the painful part,
Right,
as you mentioned. I mean, she didn't come to me with virginity in her head or something like that. She might not
right,
even be
right.
aware of it at her given age, that what is
But
it
it's in
all
our
about.
mind. The way why
It's
we are
but
resisting is
yes,
because it's in our
yes,
mind, right?
yes.
Yeah.
But as parents, yes, that is the first thing when mothers become so conscious whether to allow our girls to use it or not to use it. So
Right,
thank you for
right.
breaking that myth for all of us out here, right? And
And I
but
think there are lots of videos, Kavita, available online which you can see about how to wear a tampon, how to wear a menstrual cup. Initially, anything which is new will take a little while to get used to it. It
absolutely.
hurts because if you haven't inserted it well enough, it might, be a little uncomfortable. But if you learn how to wear it properly, it's wonderful. It's the same thing as when we started probably wearing a bra. It used to be uncomfortable. We used to
Right,
feel odd about it,
right,
right?
right.
Any new shoe you're wearing, it hurts you for a day or two.
Absolutely,
Till it's
absolutely.
so anything new will be slightly uncomfortable to begin with, but then look at the advantages and then choose a product according to that.
Right. Thank you so much, Anju. So now my next question to you is that when our girls are growing through those years and a lot of changes and a lot of talks are around their puberty, right? But what about our boys? They too go through this cycle of their teenagers and their growing up and their puberties. And you are a mom of two boys out there, right? So I really want to know from you, both as an expert into the field and as a parent also, right? That what are the challenges that our boys face, and as parents, what is it that you would like to like guide or talk to the mothers out there who have boys? Like what should they be careful about during these years, especially?
Very pertinent question, Kavita. Because most of the time we tend to ignore having these conversations with our boys. See, conversations around these topics are taboo for a lot of reasons, but it is also very awkward and embarrassing for a parent to broach these subjects, possibly because nobody broached these topics with them growing up. So it is awkward. So thus, if we can avoid these conversations, great. That's usually the mindset, right?
Right.
With girls, we have to speak. There's no choice because they will start their periods and they need to know. That's why we probably just tell them about their periods and wash our hands of the responsibility of having these conversations. But it's very, very important that we talk both to our girls and to our boys about puberty, because puberty happens to both of them. The
Mm,
transition from childhood to adulthood happens for every human being, and they
absolutely.
need to know about it. Why let them out into the jungle without knowing how to fend for themselves?
Right.
Isn't it better that you teach them about it, tell them about it before they face those changes?
Mm,
Now, boys, in fact, worry a lot about things like their height. They're very
mm,
worried about their height. So a lot of body esteem issues, develop during this teenage years because of the fact that, oh, I need to look a certain way, and which is all media populated. The media is telling you that you need to be a certain height or whatever. Then there's the fact they worry a lot about their facial hair. Getting facial hair and not getting facial hair, both are worrisome. Now, all my friends have got a mustache. I still don't have anything. I have a baby face. Am I okay? Am I normal? So there are a whole pubic hair is another worry. They worry about the fact there was a boy, in fact, who once said that, "Oh, I am so worried. Is this normal? You're saying that everybody gets hair in their genitals. Is that normal? I thought maybe am I becoming a monster or something? Why am I getting hair down there?" So we adults may laugh and smile about the fact that it's so basic. Why doesn't he know? But because nobody's told them that you're going to get hair in your genital area. So very important, we speak to them for their peace of mind, and also emotional changes, right? Both boys and girls will go through that. So, and they can be very trying, having crushes on somebody, having these mood swings where you don't know what's happening to you. Why do you suddenly feel happy? Why do you suddenly feel sad? Why do you suddenly feel like crying for no reason at all? That rude behavior which is coming out. So all of these things are, necessary to talk to them so that they grow up more comfortable, ready to face what's coming their way. And of course, the last but not one of the most important is gender sensitization. Knowing the changes that the other gender is going through is also important to create that sensitivity and empathy, and respect for the other gender. So
right,
very
Anju.
important to have these conversations with both
Ab-
boys and girls. Yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for touching on that emotional aspect, because that is what I would like to understand from you. Because in these years, yes, there are those mood swings when all of a sudden they don't feel like talking to anybody, even the parents or their siblings around,
Right.
and they want to exclude themselves and just want their own space and privacy, right? And as parents we feel, what
Yes.
happened? Our little young child who used to be around us all the time and wanted to share each piece with us is now suddenly pushing us apart. But then that is so
Right.
normal, and yes, because we don't talk about it, so it becomes a kind of a question mark that why is it happening, and what is going in the life of
So
my
it
child and all of it.
Yes, in fact, Kavita, when we do the workshops with children, we of course take them through all the physical changes, emotional changes. There are social changes, there are behavioral changes which
Hmm.
happen during puberty. But we also do a session with them on building bridges with parents, because typically we'll find that at this age the parent-child relationship kind of moves downwards, because like you rightly said, the child is behaving in a way which kind of takes the parent aback. Her child is changing completely. Friends are becoming more important than family. More me
Yes.
time is required, and the parents can't handle that. Plus, the rude behavior by the child, which is another setback for the parents. So,
Hmm.
there's usually a relationship tussle which starts at this age. But if you tell the child about it, that this is what's going to happen to you, possibly you may be rude to your parent. But there are ways of how to. Don't make puberty an excuse for bad behavior. Don't say that,
Absolutely.
oh, it's my hormones and it's going to act up and I'm going to behave like this. No, when you settle down, go and apologize to the parent. And if you've had this conversation with the parent that, okay, these are mood swings are something I'm going to go through, but just be a little more patient with me, and similarly have a similar conversation with parents that the kids are going to go through this, just support them a little, maybe give them a little more freedom, give them a little more decision making capacity to, okay, I'm going to let you take these decisions. I think it's a conversation with both parents and child, and you'll find that how wonderfully the relationship flows even during these very turbulent adolescent years, just by having those conversations.
Right. And you are so right, Anju. Like being a parenting coach, I have so many queries around this, that when our children enter into these so-called teenage years and puberty years, there's a 360 turn into their behavior and these mood swings that they
Yes.
start having. And under parenting, I would just like to clarify for my audience the thing that only need to approach a parenting expert or a coach out there just for our behavioral issues of our children. But parenting is a hub, and there's so much that falls under that. And one being the sex education, of which you are an expert. So that is my another reason of clarifying this doubt to parents, that my dear parents, when you become parents, be ready for that roller coaster journey with your child out there, because there's a lot that is going to come your way. And yes, you rightly
I
mentioned.
always say, Kavita, I always say that parenting is like a company. The parent is the CEO of that company, and there are so many different departments under that company, and you need to handle all of them, right?
Right. And different
So,
employees
yeah,
out there who have their own personality and their own way of thinking about situations
yes,
and the things around. Right. So my next
true.
question to you is, Anju, that as a sex educator, what are your programs, various programs? If you can just quickly brief us, and what age groups do you, cater to under this?
Sure. So my company Untaboo, which is completely dedicated to safety and sex education. So we have programs from age 6 to age 21.
Mm-hmm.
Now these programs we do it privately organized. They are group workshops which are privately organized for groups of 15 to 20 children age-wise. And then we go to schools where they are grade-wise programs. If I were to give you a basic distinction, so for 6 to 8, we have the body safety program. For 9 to 12 years, we have the puberty and safety program. For 13 to 50 is a program called ART, which is Aware and Responsible Teens, which is
Mm-hmm.
basically a puberty refresher, come a introduction to reproduction kind of a program. 16 to 18, we have sex, sexuality, and safety program. And 18 plus, we have a combination of sex, sexuality, safety, and a program called University Ready. A lot of kids who go to university, whether in India or abroad, this program is there. It's a complete sexual literacy and safety program for them. Now, besides the programs for children and young teens, we have programs for parents.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these are basically parent awareness programs,
Right.
which tell them that, removes all the mind blocks and personal biases that we have about sex education. It talks about how important this education is and what it can do for you, what it can do for your child, how it can keep your child safe, and how to answer children's queries when it comes your way. So this program is for parents. It's called Break the Wall of Silence. That we have in schools, we do teacher awareness talks, and we also do non-academic staff programs, because I strongly feel that it is not just the child, but the child's entire environment which needs to be sanitized and brought on par. If
Hmm.
a child is in school, not just the parents, the teachers, but even the non-academic staff who are in there, whether it could be bus drivers, it could be ayahs, it could be
Right.
an accounts person, it could be anybody. Everybody needs to be sensitized, because they are around the children, and children's behavior and how they are reacting to that is very important.
Right.
So yes,
Right.
these are all the programs that we do at Untaboo.
Right. Beautiful. And you rightly said, everyone and anyone who is around children needs to be educated on this and made a
Right.
little more sensitive about these things out
So
there.
let me give you an example there, Kavita, quickly about why it is important for everybody around the child to be sensitized. If a small example like the fact that today the boundaries are different. Growing up, we never shook hands with boys. We would just say a hello. Probably when we reached college, yes, shaking hands was normal with boys. Today, the way the youngsters meet and greet each other is by a hug,
Yeah.
right? So it is now for somebody who is uh, does not recognize that the boundaries have changed, will react in a very different manner when they see a boy and a girl hugging and greeting each other. Immediately is, oh, you know what? I think unka kuch chakkar chal raha hai.
Yeah.
So it is very important that we are at par with where the society is today, what the trends are today, and what does it mean, so that we don't see more into it than is there, kind of.
Right. So true. So true, Anju. And yes, I totally agree with you. When we were growing up, I remember when I was in sixth or seventh standard, we used to be so friendly with boys, like sitting on the same desk and playing and hugging each other. And the moment we entered into the sixth and seventh grade in the playground, if we are playing that chain
We
chain kind of a
separated.
game that was there, we have to hold hands of each other. And it was such a thing. Boys would say, no, 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 no. I'll hold only hands with boys, and girls will start singing, I'll hold
Yeah.
only hands with girls. So yes, but now times are
Right.
changing, and yes, boundaries are changing, but still everybody needs to know their boundaries and when to cross, when not to cross. So all the do's and don'ts have
Right.
to be there with everybody who's around children, and also with children themselves. They should also know their boundaries. Like recently, I was
Absolutely.
just discussing it with somebody, a young 1.5 year old child. And what happens, like in the house, no, everybody is so used to of picking the child and putting in the lap and then talking to the child and all friendly and all of it, and giving kisses on the cheek and pulling the cheeks. But then all of a sudden, child does not enjoy that touch from everybody and anybody around her. Or it may go the other way around also. The child feels it's normal. Anybody can come and hug me and pull my cheek, and that's okay because every elder in my house does so. Therefore, I asked you that question, that what is the right age to start talking to our children and let them know about their boundaries and their private parts and their rights, that if you don't feel comfortable in somebody's company, beta, you have all the right to say it loud and open that, sorry, I don't like your touch. And let not parents be
Right.
any judging the child or judging the other person out there, but just create those boundaries around everybody and make it a very smooth sail for the child and transit from one development stage to another. So as early as possible, as you said, I mean, this sex
As
education,
early
these
as
talks should
possible. Yeah, but we also need to know what to say, what to do, to teach them the
absolutely,
concept of
absolutely.
boundaries, to teach them the concept of privacy.
Hmm.
See, in India, consent is not even considered. It is, consent is so huge. We need to understand that. Now, suddenly you want to teach consent to a 18-year-old, 19-year-old, when all these years you've not even bothered about their consent. So it's very difficult. Start teaching consent to a child at very young age. If somebody, if the child is in your lap and somebody else wants to take the child, and sometimes the child turns away, doesn't want to go, but that
Yeah,
person will still pull the child, and I think avoid that, because send a message to the child that their no matters, that they
absolutely.
have bodily autonomy. If they don't feel like doing something, it is okay. Because
Mhm.
only if we give them that bodily autonomy to say a no and respect their no, will, when they go outside and they say a no, will they actually feel that, okay, I can say a no, my no has value. Otherwise,
Mhm.
we are teaching them that their no has no value. Anybody
Right,
can surpass their no and it is okay.
right, right.
So I think
And
teaching consent right from very early age is very important.
right. So that reminds me of that famous dialogue of Amitabh Bachchan's movie, that a no is a no, right? And it
Right,
should be respected by everybody around. And I would
right.
say,
So
irrespective of the gender, Anju, out there, not only a girl's no should, but also if a boy says no, then he should also be given equal respect and this thing about it.
absolutely, absolutely. I think we have to stop thinking in terms of this education is gender neutral education. Let's not think of it what should be spoken to boys, what should be spoken to girls. Everything should be spoken to boys and everything should be
Right.
spoken to girls.
Right. So I'm so happy that this conversation, I'm having it with you today, and it is breaking so many myths and mindsets that we are holding into our this thing, because that's the way we have been brought up. So they are ingrained in our mind. But with the time, we
Right.
also need to change as parents and adults around our children.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And so
And
that,
do not think, be too harsh on yourself if you're not able to change overnight, because it's been years of conditioning for us. It's
absolutely.
going to take some time. But as long as we parents decide that yes, I'm going to change because it's for the safety of my child, I think you will manage.
Yeah, absolutely. And we should understand that it's us who need to unlearn and relearn. Then only we can go ahead and talk
That's true.
to our children about such things around.
Yes.
Right. So that is
Yes.
very important. So that brings me to my next question, Anju. Like in teen years specifically, we would like to believe as parents that our kids do not know anything about that oral and anal sex out there. We would like to live in our own this thing good fancy world, but we understand that in given today's time where everything is so open for them, right? They have that mobile and everything in their hand and all the apps, and they're free to like go and watch what they want to. So my question to you is, this is another very important area which we as parents and educators should know, like how to very sensitively sensitize our children around this safety measure out there. So as an expert, because you have been to so many schools and given so many talks, how do you handle such a fragile topic out there? Because there's another myth around this. Parents सोचते हैं कि अगर हमने ये बात कर लिया ना, तो हम unconsciously उनको push कर देंगे उस direction में. So I
Yeah.
really want to hear from you around this. I mean, that what are your views?
So, Kavita, in fact, the talk which I do for parents, Break the Wall of Silence, it's actually quite a popular talk. And these are some of the myths it breaks, some mind blocks. And one of the mind block in there is that if I talk to my child, it is actually giving them permission to go and experiment.
Mm-hmm.
But let me ask you a basic, very logical question, that if you talk to your child about alcohol, you don't have alcohol, it's not good for you. Are you giving them permission to have alcohol? If you tell
Absolutely
your
not.
child that, listen, yeah, if you tell your child that, listen, smoking, a lot of young kids are smoking today, please not get into it. How nicotine impacts your body and your mind, don't do it. By having that conversation, are you giving permission to your child to go and start smoking? So, by that logic, if you're talking to your child about the sexual act, talking to them about protection about sexual act, talking about consent and boundaries, it does not mean that you're giving them permission to now go and have sex, right? It is just a conversation. Because if you don't talk to your child, if you don't talk to your teenager, the internet will.
Yeah.
The curiosity is there, the questions are there. They don't know who to ask these questions. In our time, we didn't have the option of internet. So we would ask friends, we would ask older cousins, and that's about it. Today, the children have access at the, at their fingertip, right? They have laptops, they have smartphones, which we've given them. All they need to go and type in. Little kids as young as 7 and 8 today are going on the internet and typing what is sex.
Yes.
And we have so many parents coming and saying, oh my God, my child, I saw in the history, my child typed this and has seen so many porn films, I don't know what to do. Because the curiosity is there, these words are being thrown around at them in the media, through shows, so that curiosity is there. So make sure that the internet doesn't become the parent of this child, that you stay the parent of the child. And one of the most core duties of a parent is to teach your child, have conversations, explain things to your child. So open these conversations with your children so that they get the right information, they don't form wrong attitudes. Because if they are seeing, there was a 11-year-old, and I like to mention this in every talk that I do, just to press on the fact that how attitudes can be so disturbing. So this 12-year-old child, in fact, told me in one of my sessions that, ma'am, do you know that girls like to be hit while having sex? Girls have to be tied, madam, when they have sex. Now, where is that coming from? Obviously, this child's first exposure to what the sexual act has been through a porn film.
Right.
Now, do we want our children to grow up with those kind of attitudes about women, about relationships, about the sexual act? So it's very, very important that you talk to your children. It's never too early. Never believe that it's going to make your child experiment. In fact, research worldwide, and this research has been done multiple times, and the result has been the same always, that the earlier you give sex education to your child, the earlier you open these conversations with your child, the more responsible that child will be and will delay experimentation. Because now the curiosity has been taken away. So the likelihood of them delaying it and being very responsible and safe whenever they experiment is very, very high.
Right. Thank you, Anju. It was such an interesting and important conversation with you today, right? And to all my viewers who are watching, I would like to tell them that have faith on your upbringing, my dear parents. Don't worry that if you talk about such things, your kids are just jumping into it and trying to experiment out there. Have that faith on yourself, your upbringing, the seed that you've sown into them since childhood, since the time they have come into your life. So thank you, Anju. Thank you for taking out time and being here. And also to my audience, I would like to say that very soon with Anju, we are organizing this talks of her, which are especially for parents and for different age groups to help you and your children be comfortable around these topics and break all the myths out there. So if you think that this is going to be of value to you and interesting, please feel free to contact me and I'll share the details with you soon. Once again, thank you, Anju, for all your time and all the information that you shared with us. And it was really, really valuable. And thank you so much once again.
Thank you. Absolutely a pleasure speaking to you, Kavita, and keep doing the good work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.